Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I am one of your co-hosts.
And I may or may not be a dozen different people, including, but not limited to, your other co-host, Distance.
And tonight is the Metacast movie show about Catfish. There we go. Catfish is a 2010 documentary. It is directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman.
It stars Nev Schulman, Henry Joost, Ariel Schulman, and Angela Vesselman-Pierce.
The budget for this movie was only around $30,000 with a box office take of $3.5 million.
With a tomato meter rating of 80% and an audience score of 70%.
So the documentary that coined the term catfish follows a young man, Neve, as he suspects the person he is building a relationship with online may not be who they claim to be. This is a very interesting movie that well, at least I think it's interesting. I shouldn't say that objectively, but it does definitely show its age. And that is something that I've kind of talked about movies recently where it is strange when things show their age. This is something that now in 2021, I just do not think could happen. We use technology vastly different than we did 10 or 11 years ago when this movie was made. And like, it is just not a storyline that I could see panning out today. With that being said, you would probably know it says inspired by true events. There is a lot of controversy about this movie, whether or not it is an actual documentary, whatever. But with that being said, I don't want to spoil too much of it. I don't want to get into it. To give this a verdict, I do think that it is just straight up interesting enough that I want to give it a yes. Not even talking whether I liked it or not, whether I think you would enjoy it or not. I do think that there's enough in it that it would just pique your interest. I do think that there is enough there to talk about, as you'll see with the rest of the episode. I think there's some cool ideas in this film, documentary, whatever. I think it's worth checking out. How do you feel, man?
I just realized I just pronounced Neve's name like Nev Campbell. Oops.
Yes, it is spelled strange, yeah.
I heard them say it several times in the film. Do you ever feel like everything is in the wrong place and you have to move all of it at one time? That just happened here.
I feel like a cat, yeah.
Yeah. This one's kind of weird for me because I'm talking about it right now, and in a second I'm going to just figure out my answer to whether or not you should watch it, because I don't really know, man. Like, this one was just it was short, but it's kind of like, what else are you gonna put in it? Like, if it was longer, I'd be bitching that it was too long. So yeah. I mean, I felt nostalgic about it because this is only like 10, 11 years ago. And that was kind of cool, I guess, to see stuff how it was then. But I mean, I don't know. I guess there's some things that if you think really hard about it and you kind of watch it, you can kind of peel back the layers and we can all figure out that we're gigantic hypocrites. So, like, I'm a hypocrite, and that's nice. And now that I've said that, I'll just give you a yes on should you watch. But be careful. I am a hypocrite.
We definitely are all hypocrites. I think that's a good point. And another big hypocrite is Spoiler Terry, who would easily spoil the end of this movie. This one is like, even though it's a documentary, you could kind of spoil it. It is like, it's obvious where it's going the whole time, sort of, but not quite to the extent of like what you really find out, I guess. And to me, I think the cool payoff in this not really is like what you find out, but more just the emotionality and who you meet through the movie, I think, at the end. So yeah, let's get more into like the details of this. So this is obviously your first watch, right? You've never heard of or seen this before at all, right?
Yeah, never seen it. I knew that this series existed. Never watched a single episode of it. Knew that the term existed. Actually, I was on a date on OkCupid one time, and the girl that I was meeting, she came in there. She saw like a bald man in glasses and khakis, and then like another like bald man with a mustache and like dad jeans. It was like, oh my God. And then she walked over and she saw me and she's like, oh, okay. I thought I was being catfished. So I've actually heard the term in real life. In fact, I guess I was half accused of doing so. But yeah, you know, yeah, I didn't know anything about this movie, like really going in, aside from the fact that catfish kind of meant that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the reason why you know where the movie's going, because most modern people are familiar with the term. Anyone like under the age of 40, maybe even under the age of 50.
Exactly. Yeah, that is something that's kind of strange that at the time of this release, there was not a foreshadowing by the title. But now that title, that the term has become a cultural, like an Urban Dictionary term, yeah, it's like you just read the title and you know exactly where it's going, even though the filmmakers are trying to tell you a story in a different way. So one thing that did, okay, I do want to kind of like going through my notes chronologically. Right at the beginning, it jumped out to me that it is kind of strange. And this is something that I've seen people point out as far as questioning if this is possibly somewhat faked or what the truth behind the documentary or the events really were. But why were they documenting the friendship between Nev and Abby so early? Like they're like,
well, because it's fucking weird.
Was it just like, because this kid is supposed to be a great painter, I guess, was that the interest?
I mean, I if I had to try to guess the intent, if it were me and I don't have any brothers, but if I had a brother and he was like pen pals with was she 8 or 9?
Yeah, 8. Yeah. Picture it's me. Picture yeah, we're good friends, and I've got an 8-year-old pen pal that sends me paintings.
If I had a good enough camera and aspirations of being a filmmaker, I'd be like, this is fucking weird. Something weird is going to happen. I'm going to tape this shit.
Okay.
Because it's like, especially the fact that, oh, you're friends with their mom now and you've never actually talked to this kid. Like, okay, man, there's something really fucking weird going on here. Say that thing you just said into the camera, please. Yeah. Like that's...
Well, see, and that's where I was going with it is like, I guess you did make a good point that maybe the situation was just weird to begin with. But I would think like, okay, filmmakers living in New York, you've probably got other projects you're working on. You're paying the bills somehow. Like, I don't think you're like completely just free to decide to pick up the camera and do some like hobby documentary unless you really thought there was going to be something interesting there. And that's when you said things started to get weird, like, oh, so hold on, now you're friends with the mom and you never talked to the kid yet. I do wonder, I don't think that things were faked at all. I do wonder, did they have an idea of what was going on a lot earlier than they put off, and they let themselves get into it to have content and to make the documentary?
It seems a lot like it's interesting that he just happened to have the camera on when Neve figured out that the songs were actually by someone else.
Well, I guess, I mean, like, if you are making a documentary of someone's like life and relationship, you're probably filming almost everything. Yeah, so they probably would have just,
a lot. Yeah. I mean, there's the point where he gets angry at Ariel for like, you know, bro, it's my life. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, they actually kind of get into a fight, a very sibling type disagreement. So, you know, I could see like how maybe he really did just have the camera on all the time, but it is entirely possible that they figured out something was weird about it and then they just sort of filled in the rest. Because, you know, I mean, like a lot of stuff is staged, you know.
Yeah.
Most things that seem interesting or wow, it's crazy that happened that way are usually staged anyway. Yeah. So if they had to do like things or fill in some gaps like that, it's kind of what people do anyway. I mean, you can tell on reality shows like when people are bullshitting. Like on that show, Sons of Guns, that followed like those people that customize guns and stuff. Yeah. There's an episode where one of the employees and the owner's daughter like started some romance or whatever, but you could tell that the two of them are just really terrible actors.
Yeah.
Because they tried to like stage it and it just...
That's what, I mean, it brings me to an idea though, is I do think that is kind of what makes me think that it was a lot more them just kind of letting themselves get roped in and having a feeling that things might have been strange. But the acting, if they were faking it, was great. That's like, I'd never got a feeling that things were like fake or anything. And that's where it's like, that's what makes me feel like it's mostly genuine, is like Neve, Ariel, Angela, all the people in it, like, yeah, it seemed very, very genuine.
Yeah, I mean, Neve's the grin he kept having at the beginning of the film when he thought that oh crap, the Megan,
yep.
when he thought that Megan was like all into him and stuff, that seemed really sincere. That seemed pretty real to me, and it's kind of hard to fake that.
Yeah,
I think, and like him smiling on the phone, talking to her, and the way that he was speaking to her, like if he was acting, should probably win an award for it, honestly.
But the thing that I think would make that easy to almost quote unquote fake, though, is if you had a suspicion that the person wasn't who they said they were, but you're just having a phone conversation with this woman's voice and having a genuine conversation, a genuine interaction, you're not really faking it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you have some suspicion that it's not Megan in the pictures or whatever, but it's like, you could get to a point where, a few minutes into that conversation, you're not acting. You're just having a genuine connection with another human being on the other line. And you are, your expression and everything is just the emotion that you're feeling having this conversation. But yeah.
And, the thing that I kind of found interesting about the movie is that you, to begin with, kind of want to have some idea of malevolence there.
Yeah.
That with that you the thoughts that you have whenever they're actually going to the home of the alleged family, that you look at Angela and what she's doing is what we all do, but to a very, very, very extreme degree.
Yeah. Yep.
It's also entirely possible that she may be mentally ill, because it seems like that she lied as a pathology. Mm-hmm. That even when she was more or less found out, the whole truth, like that she claimed there was a Megan, and that she actually was at this institution or whatever for recovery, and it was strange, because the thing is I mean, I've dated people that you could actually catch them with irrefutable evidence and they would still maintain the deception. Mm-hmm. You couldn't actually get them to drop it. And it was strange that there was, when they first arrived at the home, that there was a massive elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything about the fact that you look absolutely nothing like this photo that was on here. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, actually. There's it turns out that the guy, I forget the guy's name, but the one that was like he was like talking trash or whatever about the whole situation on Facebook, that guy in real life is actually Amy Gonzalez. That's actually her husband.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget the guy's name. Was it Kirk or something like that? I cannot remember, but there's actually a point where Neve actually meets up with the actual woman in the photos that's supposed to be Megan, mm-hmm. and her husband, and they have like this whole conversation about everything, and he tells him the whole fucking story, basically. And it's really funny because her husband is feeling very awkward. He has his arms folded very tightly the entire time, and it's all super awkward because he's like, hey, I was in love with your wife when I thought she was someone else. He's like, well, this is fucking weird.
Oh yeah, it's the guy that was supposed to be Vince. The picture that was supposed to be Vince.
It was the Vince guy. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then.
Okay.
That was her actual husband. I couldn't remember if it was...
That's awkward. So the picture that is really husband and wife is supposed to be stepdad and stepdaughter in Angela's fake universe. Okay, well, if I had the Pornhub intro, that would be the perfect time to hit it. God damn it.
In an interview, I want to say Angela was on 2020 or some shit, or maybe like 60 Minutes. I can't remember. But in an interview, she said that she continued to send messages to Neve on Facebook under like fictitious accounts or pseudonyms.
Oh, really?
There was like a thing that she couldn't stop.
Huh.
But and it's like it's interesting because like there's stuff that I'm sitting there watching that I'm demonizing this person and acting like she's somehow somebody bad, and what the reality is that she's someone somewhat fragile and insecure, and that it's not someone that you should be scorning out of malevolence. It's someone that maybe could use some help. And
I do see here, I'm just reading it, she apparently was diagnosed schizophrenic, or at least she says to be. I don't have a confirmation of this the diagnosis, but she does say that.
Yeah, I think I read some of her claiming that. And even after she claimed it, she said that while she had all these accounts and played all these people, that she didn't feel as if she had many personalities. And I don't actually believe that. I think dissociative personality disorder and schizophrenia are two completely different things.
Yeah.
And people tend to mistake them for one another. And schizophrenia has differing degrees too. Like, you don't necessarily hear voices or see things that aren't there. They could just be really extreme delusions, and any other number of things. Look it up in that old DSM, my people, DSM-5. That's the crazy Bible. But, it's interesting to me because have you ever heard the thing where people say it? I don't know if it's true, but it's like there's supposed to be a certain number of times you're lied to every day. And it's kind of high.
I've always heard the one about eating spiders in your sleep, and that one's way too high. But no, I've never heard the lied to. I'm sure it's got to be a lot though.
There's a certain it's crazy how many times it's estimated that most people oh my God, I can't even speak right now. It's interesting how much the estimated average of how many times someone gets lied to per day is. It's pretty up there.
But it's also I googled it. Okay, this came from a TED Talk. The range is between 10 to 200. So that is a massive.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess it depends what you do and where you are.
Exactly. Yeah. If you work, from home, doing not really much interaction with most people, like normally, my cat lies to me, I guess, when he tries to tell me I haven't fed him yet. But
yeah, he's like, bro, there's no food in here. It's like because you think of lying as a disease process. It's something you can't help, but there's a lot of people, and I would challenge anyone who's actually listening. Like, okay, look, let's just be real with each other. I lie a lot, okay? So do you. Yeah. We all do it. Everybody lies a lot. We lie for different reasons. We might, and when I say lie, I mean little white lie. Yeah. I mean a huge lie. I mean bending the truth. I mean embellishing the truth. Taking liberties with the truth.
Sometimes it's benevolent and needed. Sometimes it is part of an NDA. You may sign something that tells you have to lie.
Yep. And I mean that happens. Yep. But I think the most common ways that most of us lie are either to protect ourselves from negative consequences, or to create a perception of ourselves by someone else that's better than we actually are. And it's just like, I would challenge anyone that's listening, like, yes, okay, let's just get that over with. We're not going to argue about
better
it if we
or
lie.
Just different. Because I think like it can happen where like you may lie to just. Yeah, I've done it before in my past where it's like literally lying to make yourself seem more pitiful for like benefit in a situation. You're not lying to make yourself like look better. It's literally making the situation look bad because like you're hoping for someone's pity or something. Like
like lying for a desired result, whatever that result might be. Yep. And it's, if you really pay attention, like just do it one day. Just think about it really clearly, really catch yourself on how many times you lie a day. A lot of us do it. And the thing is that that's the reason why I realized like my own hypocrisy watching this movie. Because like I pride myself in becoming better at acknowledging my own hypocrisy.
Okay.
Like either in my head or in a social situation. Like when I say something that I know that like I've done this also, then I'll just tell people, like I'll just lay it out there. But there was this brief moment where watching this film, I had a hiccup in that. And I was like, oh man, this person's but wait a second. Like just because you don't create a bunch of different profiles on the internet like and pretend to be somebody else doesn't mean that you are any better than this person.
Exactly. It's all like with schizophrenia you're talking about. It's all degrees. Like we can't act like we're completely devoid from that. From Angela and her behavior when we all do different degrees of that.
But when you take an inventory and you really try to be consciously aware of how much bullshit comes out of your mouth a day, and it's interesting because I think this is just a theory. I'm not a social scientist or anything. I would wager that extroverts lie more.
Well,
mainly because they have more opportunities too.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say with that whole like 10 to 200 of course, because a lot of that I do think it does come to opportunity.
It's like it is really the thing that people say, like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Like, well, it's hard to tell the truth. It really is.
And it's easy to lie, and everyone does it.
Yeah. So it's and I'm not saying that anybody has to change what they're doing, but just be aware of it. Try to count how many times.
I guess
just
unless you are what is her name? The chick from Knives Out. I forget the chick that Ana de Armas played in that movie. Her character, but didn't she like throw up every time she lied or whatever? Like,
yep, yeah.
I'm sure that like that's the one exception that she probably is very conscious of every time she lies. But the rest of us,
but even she got over it. Like there's a point in the film where she was able to suppress the vomiting for at least a period of time. And if you haven't seen Knives Out, you need to, and go watch our episode, or watch our episode. Decide you want to watch it because you will want to, and then watch it.
Yeah, do that. Actually, the way you do it is you first pull up the Should You Watch. You watch that episode. You see that we both gave it a yes. Then you go watch the movie, and then you come back to see the full episode, the discussion on the movie.
Yes, that's more or less exactly how we want you to watch this. That's kind of how we've done it. Yeah, I mean, even though like the format was mostly Ty's idea, but I'm just gonna take partial credit because Co's in my title.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's also like looking at even the way that people use Facebook and formerly MySpace way back.
Yeah.
Everybody does it in a similar fashion. They're not pretending to be someone else, but they're pretending to be someone else.
Yeah. Yep. You may have your same name in your profile picture that does actually maybe have pixels in it that are actually a representation of you, but yeah, it's not you. Your online persona is definitely not you.
And there's all kinds of people that do that. What's his name? The dude that Dan Bilzerian.
Oh yeah.
Who's like basically I would call him like a rich chauvinist kind of. And he like would have all this like money, but it turns out he was actually like embezzling, and he was like using money from some companies, expensing things that he shouldn't have been. Yeah. And he actually didn't really make that much money playing poker. And I mean, who the hell knows? What's that guy? Knowledge.
Oh,
was it Kai or Ty?
No, it was Ty something. Yeah.
TAI Ty, not this Ty.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not Beanie Babies, not TY. And if you don't get that reference, you're too old to date us. Yeah. But and nobody really knows what he does. It's and there you can look online and see the that the property that he made some of his videos, Ty Lopez did, were actually for sale. And it looks as if he just kind of showed up there and like maybe asked to see the place when the realtor was gone. It's like, quick, get your camera out. Like, let's do it. It's not, I mean, people will use social networking to make it look like they're more interesting than they are. They're more adventurous than they are. They're better parents than they are. They're more adept or more skilled at something than they are. They're a better cook than they actually are. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to like,
I would say that it's like I don't think there's anything morally wrong with making yourself look better. That's what a resume is. That's what, like we all do that. But at a point where you are deceiving others to some sort of detriment, that's where I do think it crosses a moral line. And that's where it's like, once like Angela in this involving other people, deceiving them, like I think at a certain point it is like slightly different than just the creating your own fake persona and just trying to keep up an appearance that is different than what your real day-to-day life is.
Yeah, I mean, it's situational. I mean, it depends like on a whole lot of things, whether or not it crosses moral or ethical. I would say ethical probably more often than moral it crosses. But I mean, it's all very, very, very dependent on situations as to like, you know, when it's okay or not okay. And there's sometimes where when we think that lying to for somebody's benefit is good for them when it's not. Like, I have a feeling that a whole lot of people that showed up on America's Got Talent were lied to by their friends for a perceived benefit, that they were very good at something that they actually weren't. And then that resulted in them having some degree of hubris and then being embarrassed because, you know, someone told them that they were better at something than they were. Like, I mean, if I, you know, wanted to do stand-up comedy and I tested something out on one of my friends, like I would want them to be like, dude, that is awful. For the love of God, please do not quit your day job.
Yeah, you don't want them to just be like, oh yeah, go try that in the clubs while they're like, you know, their friends like, he's gonna go do that.
And I mean, you could do that as like a cruel joke to amuse yourself if you just want like one of your friends to like embarrass themselves. And depending upon your friendship with someone, maybe that's part of what you do with each other anyway. It's like embarrass each other in a humorous fashion. But
but at that point, it's like it's almost like an agreed upon thing where it's not actually at someone's expense. You know, it's like it's almost like, you know, then that's kind of like an unsaid. You've entered this arena where that is going to be a possible thing within that friendship. You know that that's a thing. Not when like not everyone on Facebook has agreed to the fact that it's like, oh, when this person with a profile and a name sends me a message that may not be who they are. Like,
yeah, and that's kind of spooky. But you know, that's another thing. Like, you can tell really clearly if a profile is real or not. And that's kind of like, that comes back to the whole like,
usually
were they really fooled? Did they even really think?
However, okay, they did bring out how easy it would be to do if you ripped these from actual profiles. Like if I mean, because if you had 400 pictures of someone living their life for years, you could very easily make that profile look real. If it was just, you know, when it's the fake profile that, you know, you get an ad from and they like, you scroll through and it's like trying to sell Ray-Ban sunglasses, then trying to get you to join their porn site or whatever. Like, oh, this is obviously fake. Like, those are easy to tell. I do wonder, when you were saying how easy they were fooled, though, that made me think, we kind of touched on this earlier with how this would not be possible in 2021. Was reverse image searching not a thing a decade ago? Because I would have been.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on Google Labs for a long time, which was like a beta.
The first one I remember was TinEye, like TINEYE.com. I forget how long when that was up.
But I would think that these particular individuals would have been pretty savvy.
No, dude, TinEye launched in 2008. So they could have been reverse image searching. So exactly, how were they fooled by this? How were you not reverse image searching?
Well, I think that the general assumption is all is well, unless otherwise noted or unless something occurs to the contrary. So it may not have occurred to anybody to search for a while. Plus, I mean, if I were Neve, I would have desperately wanted all this to be true. To have discovered some little prodigy somewhere and like be getting like all this like art like from them and like displaying this, you know, prodigy type person's art in your home, and like this mom who seems like way too attractive for her age, and the daughter who is just as attractive and likes him,
and she's and most things that seem too good to be true normally are. So that's where it's like, my red flags would be going up, and I would be, and like that's where I'm saying it's like, when they had any suspicions earlier, how are they not researching it more? I think they were, they just weren't showing us that. I think that they were figuring it out, and they were showing us the footage of like, well, we're gonna still play into this because there's a story here, which is fine. There is a story there, and I'm glad they did it because, like I said, I do think this is interesting, but I don't think it's 100% genuine.
There were some copyright, like intellectual property claims because of the music that was in the movie. And the argument by the plaintiffs, being the owners of the music, the material, was that fair use has to be a work of nonfiction, and that they were arguing that this movie was fictitious. so it wasn't actually fair use that they were using it for, and they should be compensated for their music. And I don't know, I didn't really read any more about that case to see exactly where it went, or if they were able to prove in one way or another. Because I mean, bro, as we've seen recently, shit's real hard to prove in court.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things where you kind of intuitively know something's going on, but you really can't flush it out. Is that the word?
Yeah, well,
in court.
Plausible deniability is this barrier that is sometimes you may know 100%, you just can't prove it.
Yep. It's like another movie we talked about possibly doing that we may not actually do because I didn't like it.
Which one?
Little Things. It's about.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, murder investigation.
Yeah.
Well, serial killer type thing. But yeah, like it's. I do think there's a couple weird scenes, especially when he sort of kind of gently confronts Angela.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't seem to, it didn't play out the way that I would think it would have if it were a thing and it were genuinely occurring. It just seemed odd to me, like the way that the dialogue kind of went. Angela didn't seem surprised.
Yeah.
And maybe in reality, one would not have been surprised because that elephant was standing next to them the whole freaking time.
Exactly. I think a lot of her surprise all played out when they were knocking on the door. And those few minutes where they someone was obviously inside the house and not answering the door yet. And I think that was a lot of Angela's surprise was probably during those minutes right there. But also, I do think to touch on you saying that it felt kind of odd. I do think some of that, the feeling that I got too is a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I know, when a camera is on you, you kind of act a little different. You're not really, so I wonder, it's if Angela's is she nervous? Is she not really responding the way she normally would if it was just Neve confronting her, with no cameras on, not being mic'd up and everything? But
that's true. Yeah, that's entirely true. The camera does bring out certain things and suppress certain other things. Yep. Yeah, that is a good point. If there's a camera on you, because the healthy sense of shame that you may have is somewhat exacerbated, I'm sure.
Yeah.
By having a camera on you, and
And I think you also just feel a certain social pressure to act a certain way because it's being recorded and other people are going to see it, versus if it's just a personal one-on-one situation, you may act a totally different way.
And I do somewhat feel like parts of it may have been a little staged, mainly because of the degree of sympathy that you could see that Neve and Ariel had for Angela.
Yeah.
I don't know about Henry. Henry was kind of oddly cavalier, and then in other points unreasonably paranoid.
Yeah.
I didn't really he doesn't get a lot of camera time, so he didn't really understand his personality much, but he and Ariel Schulman actually worked on a bunch of other films after this. I think they were involved in most films that Ariel did. I think he was involved in. So I mean, either as a co-producer or a producer of some type. And he did a lot of stuff. Actually, a movie that we did not particularly like, Project Power.
Yeah,
Ariel Schulman directed that.
Yep.
And he was in a couple other movies that one of them's with James Franco's brother in it. It was about a Google or Microsoft type company,
Nerve or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That one I watched a while ago, and when I was out, it came out a while ago. I was quite young when I watched it, and I really, really liked it.
It was fun.
I mentioned to it because I think I was working at a video store then, and I mentioned it to some of the, I think it was some of my coworkers there. It was like, "Oh, have you guys seen this?" And they all started taking a crap all over it, and they're like, "What did you think?" I was like, "Oh, it was garbage."
Yeah. I saw a TikTok. Oh my god, I am 80 fucking years old. I saw a TikTok recently that made me fucking laugh because it made me feel like the moment that I had reading the reviews for The Midnight Sky, where it was just this girl that said something about I forget how she worded it. She was like, "I constantly be liking bad movies. whoops, didn't mean to enjoy that. Or like, I forget how she worded it, but it was like, I'll do that. We're like, I really enjoyed The Midnight Sky. And then I pulled up those reviews and it was like, oh, holy shit. I was like, am I just a bad movie watcher? Like, why did I like this and everyone else hated it?
Well, it's because you have good taste.
Yeah, it's exactly.
And everyone else has bad taste.
They're all out of touch.
There's no other explanation for it. They don't appreciate good art.
So Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman also did Australian Psycho.
Dude,
I did not know that.
I love American Psycho. It's one of my favorite movies ever. It's been on my top 3 or 4 favorite films list ever since it came out. Is that supposed to be like a female version?
Yes, and I love Margot Robbie. She is on my top 3 or 4 women ever since she came out. So like, I feel like those two, the Australian Psycho, might be something I want to check out.
Margot Robbie was, I think Wolf of Wall Street was one of her best roles. She does that like sort of Long Island, New York accent really, really well in that one.
She also does that accent really, really well as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, she did kind of. Yeah, it's not as. That's true, actually. It's basically the same accent,
it's a little like way more nasally, yeah, but it's still, yeah. I love that accent. Though. I think she killed it.
They probably saw Wolf of Wall Street. They're like, yeah, we should cast Margot Robbie for this. She's got the voice and other things.
Did you ever see what was The Big Short? The movie about the 2008 financial crisis. I love the scene where it's like, and here's Margot Robbie explaining stocks to you in a bathtub, and she's just like in a bathtub drinking champagne, explaining stuff to you. It's like, it's funny.
That shit was hilarious. Actually, I like how they went over the top with making it relatable.
Yeah.
But he produced a lot of other stuff in addition to directing it. I think he ended up producing a lot of the films that he directed.
Yeah, they've had a pretty prolific career after that. Like, and I mean, literally all of it started with this, right? That is kind of like, if you faked it, that's fucking genius. You know, it's like, or again, not even faked it, but if you knew that you had this story and then let yourself kind of, you know, let it happen because you knew the content was going to be there. It's genius. I mean, oh my God, I'm excited for this. So apparently, he is now the announced writer. There is going to be a Mega Man movie coming out. Ariel Schulman's writing it. I'm down to check it out. But yeah, it doesn't have a year posted yet. But he's announced as the writer.
You know that thing we said about things being too good to be true. I think this movie might be garbage.
Video game movies usually like that. There's the Mortal Kombat movie coming out soon. That like.
There's gonna be another one. I thought they were done with that. Haven't they wasted enough of their time?
The trailer like just came out either today or will come out tomorrow, and the movie comes out in 2 months. That's not a good sign. And I think the director, I think he's got 1 credit, and it's like a short film. So it's like, it's not. Again, I don't want to judge it. Like, just saying, you know, like not a lot to go by. The director's track record isn't there. The Mortal Kombat movie track record is not good. So, like, hopefully it surprises us, but, you know.
You know, man, thinking about this movie, there's 2 kind of things. Because, by the way, this entire episode's off the dome. I have absolutely no notes whatsoever. I didn't take any.
I've got some, but we've just kind of bounced around and had a natural, organic conversation. They're like, yeah, it just worked.
Fancy that.
Yeah.
Usually we fake it. It's a fake, natural, organic conversation.
True. And why hasn't our Hollywood career taken off?
Yeah, I know. Like we, you know, our conversations are based. They're inspired by true conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There is sort of a meta aspect to this film because it's a person who is deceiving someone else with creators who may also be deceiving the audience in convincing the audience that they themselves were deceived.
And there is also, on top of that, the layer that Angela claims she deceived the filmmakers into making the film about her because she wanted attention. Now that is probably just like kind of, you know, delusions of grandeur, but that is kind of funny that she also like she claims that it's basically her idea and she kind of like trapped them into making a film about her,
which would be just a little too like movie psychopath to be like real. There is another thing that I think on the subject of the accusations that some of this may have been faked, for lack of a better word, we'll just call it faked. That I kind of equate it to a magic trick.
Okay.
Because the magician is deceiving you.
Yeah.
They are attempting to convince you that they have supernatural powers in which they're able to do things that are not possible. And when a magician can do something that is so amazing, that has so many layers, that for a brief moment you kind of think, I don't know, maybe it is real. That's kind of a wonderful thing that magician has just done.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is, though, I do harken back to the point of the agreement and knowing what you're signing up for. When you go to a magic show, you know that that's what you're signing up for. When you watch something called a documentary, you are assuming that what you are, with good reason, you are assuming that what you're being shown is factual and not misleading. So there is kind of I do think it's a good point, though, that for entertainment's sake, sometimes it is completely acceptable to deceive and to get to the point or to the event from that and make the entertainment that way, that it necessitates being deceptive. But when you call it a documentary, though, I think that makes it something different.
Right. And I mean, furthermore, they really did, like, they maintained that it was a documentary film when legal action was taken,
and they
for
still do.
intellectual property.
Yeah, and I mean, to this day, 10 years later, they still do. So I mean, we may be completely wrong, like it is all just completely hearsay, but
yeah, maybe we're barking up the wrong fishing boat.
I mean, I do have to say though,
something clever that was not clever.
I do have to say though that it's like, if you I don't want to be judgmental, but it is like, if you didn't know earlier, I don't think you did due diligence as a filmmaker. I don't think you were really looking into what you were doing, where you were going, anything. Like, how were you not researching the people more? Like that, to me, it seems like any level of picking this apart, you would have figured out what you were walking into. And then the documentary, if you wanted to be honest, could have become something very like Icarus. You've seen Icarus, right? How that documentary, halfway through it, turns into something completely different because the filmmaker discovered something and changed his work. Like, rather than saying like, okay, I'm going to stick with this original narrative and try to make this work, it's like, you could have been like, okay, hey, we discovered this person is definitely not who they say they are. We are going to, like, you could still follow the story and get the what you wanted out of it. I don't know. I don't know. Like you're saying though, maybe it is like the magic trick where it does require the deception because I mean, the way the end of the movie hits, it is definitely pretty emotional. I love, like, there's a lot of the few scenes at the end where you really get to know the family and Vince and Angela and the situation she's in and everything, and it's powerful. And I don't know if that would have been there if done a different way. So it is like, I mean, even if it was not completely genuine, maybe Ariel did make the right choice.
Yeah. And, I mean, and also, when you find out that one of Vince's sons, like, passes away, without them making the film the way that they did, you wouldn't get that. There's no drama there. It's like, when, like an adaptation, like when he's saying, like, where's the drama? Like, you have to create something, like you have to put something there to make it drama, to create some kind of, mystery. And like, even like movies where someone's doing there's a guy that I don't know if they ever documented that or not, but like a movie where the regular, like, objectifying someone, like inspiration porn thing where, oh, this person has some difficulty and they're going to do this amazing thing to make able-bodied people with no difficulties feel better about themselves, which isn't always the case, but that someone that's doing there's a guy, I think he had MS, and he between like his flare-ups, he would do triathlons. And there was, like, I think it was a mini doc, because there's actually a Spanish film about him, like a fictional, like,
like an actual
biography type movie,
but biopic.
But Yeah, yeah, is that what they call this? And he, there is a mini doc I think on YouTube where you don't know if he's gonna finish the race, you know,
That's cool.
and
Yeah.
more than likely, it probably didn't take 2.5 minutes of suspense just sitting there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that what they did was just take some shots at the beginning of the race of the track with no one there. And they create more time and
Yeah.
use dramatic tension music to make it. But that's not so disingenuous. That's not so deceptive as to kind of
Exactly. I think
like
that's more
what
along
we're
the
talking about
lines.
here.
I think that's more along the lines of like sprucing up your online persona to be
Yeah.
the better version of you. Like it has a lot of the genuine core to it, but it is just maybe like polished to give a different person for an impact, I think, though. And that's I think the biggest thing that we're pointing out is like a lot of it does have to do with an intent. If you especially if there's money involved, if you are portraying something as not the way it is because you are selling a product, that is very different than if you are portraying something not the way it is because you are trying to be positive and make like, you know, like there is the whole like, you know, even though I feel bad, I'm going to smile. That's going to make me feel better. Even though my life's shitty, I'm going to say it's great because it's going to make me feel better. That to me could be just an actual like benevolent thing versus like there are malevolent ways to do that where you are actually taking advantage of other people. Well, I mean, I don't even want to say like hit on everything on my notes because it was just like I just kind of took notes of like what was going on through the movie, and like I do think, okay, well, one thing I do want to talk about, holy shit, 9 months and 1,500 text messages. That is a crazy like that. I don't see.
I forgot about that number.
Yeah, I mean that does make me want, like, I don't know, that is crazy. The relationship they had was at no matter what at some point genuine, even if he knew that they weren't who they were or anything. It's like they were exchanging so many messages for such a long time that, and I think that's why like at the end of the movie they showed that they are still friends, quote unquote, on Facebook. Like it is like the person he got to know, even though it was a different name and portrayed themselves differently, it's like you still get to know the person behind that mask.
Yeah, that's true. And at least there was some kind of something genuine about it. And you know, one thing that I didn't really think about mentioning, that I can understand Angela's desire to inhabit someone else's skin, to be a different person for a little while. I love Halloween.
Yeah.
And when I go out on Halloween, I am in character. I am playing that role. And I had a couple old roommates that I used to go out with, and we would come up with some like silly like idea of who we were for that night, and like dress apart. And like anytime we talked to strangers, we would come up with some weird story about like what we did. Like
that's funny. Yeah.
We were like, or did you ever see the movie 21?
Yeah.
About the MIT folks. Like they actually made up shit too. Like one of them was an arms dealer.
Yeah.
Like I remember one night, I think I won't name the guys, but because one of them I actually kind of hate, honestly. One night I think one of the guys convinced someone he was a Vanderbilt.
That's funny. That's really funny.
And we were, and I remember one time, like a girl that I was dating, we were out, and she had a good friend that was with us, and apparently he was the spitting image of someone on American Idol.
Okay.
And did my video just like
it froze for a second? Yeah,
that was a terrible pause. That was so bad.
I know what I'm doing for a thumbnail.
Please, there you go. That would actually be really funny. But I forget the guy's name, but he kind of knew that he sort of looked like that person, and we actually played it up. Like we pretended he was that guy from American Idol.
Yeah.
And this like super excited, like middle-aged woman, like took a picture with him and all this stuff. And it felt really wrong, but like that made that lady's night. And there was probably nobody that could convince her that wasn't the guy after that.
Until she looked at the pictures the next morning sober and was like, oh, that is like, not at all Ruben Studdard.
Is it who? Is that just a random person from that show?
Yeah. Yeah, Ruben. I think Ruben was one of the first winners.
Oh, because the thing about it was I didn't actually even know who this person was. And I just kind of went with it. And I mean, there was even a time where
this is Ruben Studdard. Is this what your friend looks like? Did she get him mixed up with him by any chance?
No.
Okay.
I don't think anyone looks like him. He's got a very unique kind of thing going on. Good beard.
Oh yeah.
Very good beard. Well trimmed. Nicely shaped.
That was just the first American Idol person that came to my mind was Ruben Studdard. That was like the name that popped out.
All I can think of is that like little red-haired guy, but I can't remember his name.
Kelly Clarkson.
Oh yeah, him. But yeah, it's just it is kind of fun to not be you for a little while and to live some kind of fantasy. And once again, like that's my own hypocrisy. Like it's that the things that we did were mostly harmless, and a lot of the time we would actually just kind of come clean at the end of the night, like, and just say, hey, look, we had a lot of fun with you guys. This is like a thing that we do. And one of the best nights was where one of the guys was faking like a British Cockney accent, and there was an actual British woman there.
Oh God.
She was like, where are you from? And he said like Manchester. She's like, that's funny. You don't sound like you're from the north. And then we were like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah.
Like we just scattered. Like we'll just let him suffer.
Board. Okay. The big dog said Clay Aiken. Was that who you were thinking of? Was it Clay Aiken?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Thank
the
you.
guy.
Thank you.
Let me look him up. I think that's Clay.
It made me, while you were saying that, it made me think about it though. The theme that I had here that I really wanted to touch on was actually like a perfect segue. I don't think you definitely didn't do this on purpose unless you read my notes, but escapism. So sometimes it's fun to escape, and sometimes we do that because we're horribly dissatisfied with the situation that we're in. And I do think a lot of what we saw from Angela, I don't think it was fun for her. I think that she was, she was dealing with a lot of issues with the situation that she was in, and trying to find some way to escape that. And I think she did. I think she found a world where she had a lot of enjoyment, and she made friends, and I think it worked for her. I think she had some, but at the same time, it's like that is it doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean that what you're doing is morally sound. Yeah. So, you ready for favorite line? Or you got anything else you want to talk about?
Thinking about the right way to say this, that just on the subject of escapism and what we kind of tend to do with like websites and social networking and things like that, is that if you're out there and you're listening and you're dealing with some stuff like this, and you find yourself escaping things more than changing things in your life, then maybe a thing that I've been seeing a therapist off and on for the last decade, and the thing he used to say to me is, whenever I said a thing that I did or something that was like a coping device, he would ask me, what is that doing for you? And it would make me think, and sometimes the coping device would be good. It would be a good way to cope with things, and I'd realize it was actually doing something good for me.
Yeah. And
there's other times where I would think really hard, and the only things I could think of were negative. Yeah. So, whatever it is, if it's, and look, we play video games. Yeah. So, and there's a healthy way to do that, and there's a balanced way to do that. And that's something that in our previous theme podcast, we talked about balance all the time. That's cool. And, people watch TV, and people play sports, and they Facebook, and they surf YouTube, and that's good, normal, healthy stuff. But
creating 15 extra accounts is not. That is past balance. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Where if it's at the point where it's unhealthy, and you know that it is, and you're being honest with yourself, like there's all kinds of stuff out there that can help. Yeah. And yes, the movie was entertaining, but at the end of the day, this is about what we'll just agree to perceive as a real person here. And these are things that like real people have to deal with, and that they suffer through them. So if you can in any way relate to the way that this character feels with anything, and you feel like you're escaping from your life, then maybe get some help. And once you get help, then maybe find some ways to make your real life better, so you don't have to escape from anything.
And
So
don't be scared to reach out to anyone in your life for help too. Anyone,
right,
even in your life or not even in your life. There are plenty of resources online of anonymous people you can talk to. I know there's like what's it called? 7 Cups of Tea, or there's a lot of different places like that where it's just free to reach out and talk to someone. I know a lot of times we feel lonely, but in the world that we're in now with all the technology like we talked about in this movie, there are literally thousands of people just 1 second away online. So yeah, don't be scared to reach out.
yeah, hope that wasn't too like Brady Bunch PSA. But
I wish I could wish I could put 9 of us in the frame for that too. Oh man,
that would be awesome.
All right, well, you ready for favorite line?
Oh yeah, you're gonna love mine.
You're gonna love my nuts. Sorry, slap chop commercial. Do you know that guy went to jail for meth and hookers?
I fucking believe it. Everybody that's in an edgy ad campaign gets bagged for drugs and prostitutes, or something of that nature.
Oh man. Let me see. I'll go first with favorite line this week. I picked one that okay, so I talked to Distance about it already. Of course, the line that's too obvious is the line about Catfish. Why the movie's called what it is. It's a great line. Vince has a great monologue. I'm not going to do that line. It's too obvious, but I did like another one of Vince's lines so fucking much. Vince was a very a great voice of wisdom in this movie. He had a few lines, a few things that he said that were just really well worded, and I loved it. And this is one that he said to Angela that I just thought was perfect. What is it you want in life? Because you can't have it all. I think that's an important question that people have to consider. That it is like there is always a trade-off, and it is like you've brought it up before. Are you willing to sacrifice what it takes to get something? Because you literally can't have it all. If you go for the thing you want, you will be missing other things.
So the line that I picked is someone that we actually didn't really talk about a lot and didn't really get a lot of screen time. But it's someone who I think is probably one of the more affected individuals in the film. And even though the line that I chose is somewhat whimsical sounding, the thing that she said reminded me of a young family member of mine, and it seemed like something that this family member would have said themselves. You're confusing me.
That's good. I was so convinced your line was going to be, I'm not a bear, I'm a bunny.
That shit was actually really funny.
That was.
But it's, like, it's just something that it reminded me of, like, my niece. Like, that just seems like something that she would say.
Yep.
Like, and it's a really, it's a strange, like young person, like very young person way of almost expressing frustration. And I think that she had to have been affected by some of this in some way or some degree.
Oh yeah.
With that being like, her parent that was, going through these things. But that line, it just, it was the only time where you ever got to see any of what Abby was maybe going through.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
I do like the scenes with Abby where we saw that she was just a normal girl. Like, it's not like she's not some prodigy. It's not like, like it, I mean, which is fine, like it's totally, but it's like, I thought that was an important scene, like in the inner room of just showing like, just a normal 8-year-old girl. Like it's like, that's all it is.
Just a regular ass vanilla kid.
Exactly. Do you have choices for me for next week? What do we got?
Oh, dude, you know what? I didn't come up with any. Hold on. I can do this. I got this.
You have like leftover ones too, because we've had like, I think you did that last week where you recycled a few. I ended up picking one that was like used a few times before.
Oh, okay. I do have one. Let me. I'm only going to give you 2 choices this time.
Okay, that's fair. I want to pick whichever one made you laugh that hard. I'm into it.
Oh God, I'm not even sure how to phrase this.
It's Ben Affleck suck a titty, I think is the way that it said.
Did you ever tell me what movie that was gonna be?
I don't know if I did. Well, you've got the full list in front of you. You can probably deduce it.
Oh, actually, I can give you three, and one of them is borderline offensive, but
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to watch a movie about someone that everyone loves to hate? A movie about about someone who we could all be in danger of becoming in a couple years?
Ooh.
Or a movie featuring an actor in which he acts like the way he should have acted in another film but didn't? And do not ask me to repeat that last one. I cannot fucking do it.
I've actually got it. It was an actor acting like he should have acted in another film but didn't. Okay, so everyone loves to hate, someone we're all in danger of becoming in a few years, or an actor that was acting like he should have acted in another. That one's kind of intriguing.
It's also really stupid. I don't even know why I said it, but that's okay.
You know what? I want to see who we all are in danger of becoming in a few years.
That was tongue in cheek, by the way. Her.
Okay. Dude, okay. I am into that.
All fall in love with Siri tomorrow. Who knows?
If I have Scarlett Johansson on my phone in a few years, I am completely fine with that.
Well, dude, the character that Ana de Armas played in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
I mean, she was perfect for Knives Out. She was perfect for that role too.
I think you're just saying Ana de Armas is perfect. That's what I heard.
For some roles.
All right, guys. I think
Ana de Armas, if you're out there,
I'm excited for her. Not Ana de. I'm excited. Well, I'm excited for her too. But I'm excited. I haven't seen the movie Her literally since I think it came out, and
I haven't seen it at all.
I hated it when I first saw it.
Really?
I really, really did not like this movie. So I am really excited to give it another chance. I remember but I was also, what movie was, or what year was this?
2007, I think.
2013, apparently. Wow. That's
okay.
Holy shit, Spike Jonze too? I did not realize that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I am definitely a lot different person than I was in 2013. But yeah, I'm interested to see where how I feel about this movie in 2021. So guys, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Catfish.
If you think that we are so awesome that we should make 12 other Facebook profiles of different people promoting our own show, or if you just want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV. Yeah!
Hey, thank you guys for listening, and I hope everyone has a great week.